Welcome everyone to our webinar session. We're going to be focusing in on employee benefits and answering your questions that you have for these next 28 or so minutes. This meeting is all yours to ask us as many questions as you like. My name is Jonathan Rivera, and I work alongside the membership benefits team here in ISSA, particularly around the employee benefits program that are offered to ISSA members. I represent an agency that's based outside of Chicago called Bullock and Associates. And so we're employee benefit consultants there. Just before we start going away and answering your questions, we have a few already. I just wanted to give you just a real high level summary of some really cool new benefits that are now live for ISSA members. One is MetLife. MetLife offers ancillary benefits such as dental, vision, life, disability. They have a association product that's being offered to ISSA in that they have benefits with guaranteed issued rates. So rather than rating your group based on your group, they'll just give rates that are guaranteed based on the group's area or region. Now, I will say this for full transparency, just because the rates are guaranteed issued and just because they're unique to the association does not guarantee they are going to be the cheapest rates out there. Yes, they could be, but obviously you want to reach out to us to make sure you're getting the most competitive rates out there. And then secondly, on the medical benefits side, we do have a program as well that does require medical questionnaires to be submitted. But the caveat is that there are no employer contributions required by the program. And also, there are no employer or employee participation requirements for that one. So essentially, whoever's interested in joining the benefits plan in your group can, but they would have to fill out a medical questionnaire. So I just wanted to give you just a little high level of some new programs, new benefits that have been added on over the past few weeks and months. And we could talk a little bit more about that offline. All right, let's start answering some of your questions here. Our first question, do you have any examples of groups that have seen cost savings joining the benefits program through ISSA? And the answer is yes. Obviously, cost savings are driven by the size of the group and the type of employee benefits program that's being offered. But to give you a really, really good example of some cost savings, we have a group that's just over 100 employees enrolled on their plan. And they transferred from their former plan to the program that we have, one of our program offerings. And the group is looking to save about $600,000 in premiums this year. So that was a fine example of the potential cost savings if you're a right fit for the program. Here's another nice question. What are the eligibility criteria for employers to enroll in the ISSA plans and the MetLife program? Well, the eligibility criteria really depends on the program that you pick. So some programs that we have that might benefit you do have criterias that are traditional criterias where you have to meet certain participation requirements in order to enroll. But we also do have other programs that do not have really stringent, restrictive eligibility criteria. So for instance, the MetLife program, typically for ancillary benefits, some carriers require at least 50% of the employees to enroll, or in some cases, 25%. For the MetLife program, those criteria are pretty much excused or dismissed. So you can really offer to just whoever is interested. And similar to the medical plans, we do have a medical plan program on the medical side of the shop that waives participation requirements, which I talked about at the intro of our meeting here. So yeah, we do have options that offer programs without stringent criteria or requirements. That leads to our next question here. Thank you for all these questions. What options are available to offer basic medical insurance to non-management employees? So what options are available? So in the case that you're describing here, this is what is considered a carve out. Some employers do that. They will carve out a certain class of employees, so manager, non-manager, hourly, non-hourly, union, non-union, and they may offer a medical plan to their manager carve-out class in this instance or in this example. And then for the non-medical, or excuse me, non-manager class, you can offer, it depends on you and what you're looking to do. So what you could do, you can offer a MEC plan, which is like a very, very bare bone plan called minimum essential coverage plan. That's not your traditional plan, but it does cover certain ACA requirements, not all, but some. What you could also do is offer a very rich traditional plan to some of your manager class, and then for the non-manager class, maybe less richer plan like a high deductible plan or a MEC enhanced plan. So it's a MEC plan with some additional benefits on top of it. Those are some opportunities that are out there. But we would recommend having a one-on-one consultation with us to do a little deeper dive to see what would be the best fit for your group. Now, here's a hot topic. Here's the next question here. What is reference-based pricing, and is it worth looking into? So not to get too deep into the topic, but reference-based pricing is starting to pick up some traction these days. Essentially, you have your traditional insurance where your insurance carriers have contracts with providers. And by providers, I mean doctors and hospitals, right? And those contracts, essentially, the insurance carrier is agreeing to terms as to how much they're going to pay out for set surgeries and procedures. And the hospital agrees to those rates. Now, those rates could vary depending on the hospital. So one hospital, I'll give you an example. These are not hard numbers, but one hospital could charge for a certain surgery 100 grand. And then in that very same network, another hospital down the street could charge 75 grand, $75,000. Now, what reference-based pricing does, it eliminates all of that. And basically, it sets the standard at Medicare. So Medicare has a set rate that they pay out to the hospitals for set surgeries. So what a reference-based pricing plan does is basically they say, we're not going to have any network. We're going to pay you, the provider, Medicare rate. But what they try to do is they'll pay a little bit more than Medicare. So they'll say, we'll pay you 150% to 200% of what Medicare pays out. And typically, on average, by doing that, you're paying substantially less money than what you would do when you pay out at the contractual rate that the more traditional carriers are doing with the hospitals or providers. Those rates typically can be 4, 5, even sometimes 1,000% higher than what Medicare is paying. Now, here's the downside to a reference-based pricing, is that you could find yourself in positions where the provider is not willing to accept the reference-based pricing that you're willing to pay out, which can lead to a balance bill situation, which can lead to a member going into collection. So reference-based pricing is a fantastic concept. It works for some groups, and for others, it does not. So it would require for us to have a consultation to do a deeper dive to see if it's worth your group looking into. All right, here's our next question. What is the criteria for the ACA or Affordable Care Act, Part A and Part B penalty? So high level, for ACA or Affordable Care Act, there are two sort of sectors. There's what's considered small employer and large employer. Small employer is less than 50 full-time eligible employees. And then the large employer is more than 50 full-time eligible employees. If you're considered small business sector in the ACA, you are not required to offer insurance and meet Part A and Part B penalties. If you are considered a large employer, according to the ACA or Affordable Care Act, then you are required to meet both the Part A and Part B requirements. If not, you can be penalized. So what is Part A? Part A essentially says that you have to offer what is considered minimum essential coverage. You have to offer that to all your full-time eligible employees. If you do not offer what minimum essential coverage, you could get charged a certain fee or penalty, excuse me, for not doing that. That's what Part A represents. What does Part B represent? Part B basically requires you to offer what is considered a minimum value plan. Minimum value plan. That means the benefits have to meet a certain level for it to be considered minimum value. And then also, it has to be what is considered affordable to your employees. So the government determines what is considered affordable for your employees. So you can offer a plan that meets minimum value, but if it does not meet the affordability based on the ACA, then you could be penalized if audited. What typically triggers an audit from the government is if one of your employees goes onto the marketplace, obtains not only benefits, but also obtains subsidies or gets subsidized by the government. That can trigger an audit by the government to see if you're meeting the Part A and Part B requirements of the ACA. So that would answer that question there. Any other questions that we could pop up here on our chat? Let's see here. Okay. What is the role of the TPA or third-party administrator? And why is it important to have the right partner? So what is the role of the TPA, third-party administrator, and why is it important to have the right partner? So TPA is what's considered a third-party administrator. Third-party administrator really comes into play for those employers that are either level or self-funded. What the third-party administrator will do is they're basically your customer service arm for your plan. So they're the ones that are going to be producing invoices. They're the ones that are going to be generating explanation of benefits. They're the ones processing and paying out claims. They're the ones that are going to answer questions when your employees call in to ask what doctor I go to, what hospital I go to. Now, the reason why it's important to have the right TPA is because your TPA is what's going to generate your claims reporting. So you want to have a TPA that has good reporting features so you can understand what your spend is. You also want a TPA that's ahead of the game when it looks at your claims. So as claims are coming in, for instance, if someone is coming in and looks like they may potentially be going through dialysis or cancer treatment, the TPA will proactively start to engage that member and help to navigate their care to put them in front of highly qualified doctors, but at the lowest cost to the plan to try to preserve claims and drive claims down. So it's important that you have the right TPA that can really manage that for your group. And we can help you to shop the TPAs because we do have some preferred ones that we think are really helpful. Now, next question. Can we customize the insurance plans through ISSA to meet our employee needs? Yes, you can. And the way we would do that is we would have a one-on-one meeting with you to determine first and foremost which one of our program offerings can potentially meet your needs. And then once that happens, especially if you're in the self-funded, level-funded space, you could definitely customize your plan. And what I mean by customizing is legitimately building your plan. So what's going to be covered, what's not going to be covered, what's the deductible, what are going to be the copays, what are not going to be the copays. You literally build your plan to meet the needs of your employees or your group as a whole. All right, here's our next question. Can you review again the difference between fully insured, level funded, and self-funded plans? Okay. For this question, you can use your own webinar. It'll probably take 30 minutes for you to fully get the scope of the difference between all three. And so I'll say that to say that I'll try to do this at high level and answer it as best as I can with our limited time. And if we need more time one-on-one, we could do that. But essentially, a fully insured plan is what it is, fully insured. You pay your premium, and 100% of that premium goes to the insurance carrier, and that's 100% fixed costs. You do not see a dollar of that premium ever again. So if your group had really good claims year, all those profits go to the insurance carrier, right? On top of that, with fully insured, typically what tends to happen as well is you don't really get to see a lot of your claims data or claims details. That's owned by the insurance carrier. And then one of the good things about fully insured, and this is not for all fully insured contracts, but most do allow this, they will allow you to term at any point, and then they do offer run out coverage. So if you term, any claims lag, a lot of times a fully insured carrier will pay for those claims that come in post termination. What level funded does is the carrier will take a portion of your claims, or excuse me, your premium dollars, put that into a claims bucket, and as claims come in, claims get paid out. At the end of the year, if there's any claims dollars sitting in your claims account, depending on the contract you have with the insurance carrier, 100% of that claims dollars that were unused could stay with you. Or some insurance carriers will say, you keep 50% of that, we take 50. So that's typically how level funded works. Now, in a self-funded plan, you essentially get to see everything, where every claims dollar is going. You have control of what claims are being paid and how they're getting paid. You keep any unused claims dollars, and you could potentially get monies back that would typically go to the insurance carriers. It's essentially you're your own insurance company. Now, self-funding sounds scary, but it's really not, and we could do a deeper dive with that at another time where we have more time to develop that. But again, that's a real high level of fully insured, level funded, and self-funded plans. Here's our next question. How does employee turnover impact the insurance program? Well, it can or can't impact the insurance plan. And what I mean by that is there are groups that have high employee, excuse me, a high employee turnover, but it doesn't really impact the plan because a lot of those employees don't even join the plan at all. So it's a moot point. For other groups, you have employees that come in, they join the plan, they run claims up, and then they leave the company. And guess who's left with the high claims? The employer is. And if you don't have the right underwriters on the insurance carrier, they can look at your group as a high risk group, and you're affected by your premiums. So employee turnover can, or maybe not, impact your insurance program. It just depends on your group and the utilization of your employees with the employee benefit program. Here's our next question. Can you help me understand what is a captive, and are captives worth looking into? Captives are very, very much so worth looking into. Essentially, what a captive is it's a self-funded program with a fully insured feel to it. Captives do sort of have, not sort of, but do have participation requirements. Typically, a captive is looking to have at least a minimum of 25 employees enrolled, and typically about 50% of your employee population enrolling in it. But what it is essentially you're self-insured, but with the assistance of other employers coming together to form what is known as a captive pool. So you and typically maybe 300-400 employers are coming together to form your own captive or insurance program. And then in that captive, there's protections. So you as the employer are only responsible for set amount of claims. Once you've hit that amount, then the captive pool comes in to cover the rest of your claims. And then the captive layer has a set amount. And if that amount gets hit, then you have what's known as a stop loss or reinsured carrier behind you to protect the overall captive. The cool thing about a captive is that any unused claims dollars at the end of the year is yours to keep. And at the end of the year, any unused claims that the captive had, or any profits in essence that the captive generated, that gets distributed amongst all of its captive members. So for instance, we have a few groups on captives now that did not have the best of years. However, they're still getting money back because the overall captive performed well. And in addition, with a captive, you have full transparency to see where your claims dollars are going. So when you sit in front of your broker at the end of the year for renewal time, if there's a renewal increase, you will understand why, because you see where your claims are trending to. And then you could adjust for the next plan year to sort of contain costs. So captives are definitely worth looking into. But again, you have to have at least 25 employees enrolled to even consider it. Now, do you help with, this is our next question. Do you help with HR guidance on federal and state specific compliance requirements? Yes, we do. Typically, we offer that guidance once you become an active participant in one of our benefits programs. So yes, in order for you to get assistance with HR guidance, you have to be an active participant, whether in the medical or dental or vision program, and then the HR background, the HR support comes with that. Here's our next question. Are there enrollment periods we need to be aware of? And can I terminate my policy at any time and start a new one? So this is dependent again on your group. If you're considered a new group that you currently have never offered insurance, the term for that, the insurance term is a virgin group. Well, then you could determine when you're going to start your policy. And depending on the type of policy you sign up for, some allow you to terminate at any time with no penalties. And then others allow you to terminate, but then there are some penalties. For instance, if you terminate early and you want claims to be paid, claims that come post termination but were incurred during your policy, and you want that to continue to be paid, there are penalties that you would have to pay to make sure those claims are covered. Here's our next question. What other insurance options do you provide? Disability, dental, vision, accidental injury? So yes, all of the above. So we do provide medical benefits. We do provide ancillary benefits such as dental, vision, group term life, voluntary term life, accident coverage, critical illness coverage, disability, short-term and long-term disability. We offer a full scope of employee benefits. Here's our next question. Are there any cost sharing options between the employer and employees? Yes, there are. And again, that's all driven on the program that you pick. And then on top of that, what size of an employer you are. Remember, you still have to be concerned with the Affordable Care Act. So if you're a large employer per the ACA, then sort of the government is going to tell you essentially how much you have to pay to meet their requirements. But if you're considered a small group, then really you can determine your cost sharing options, and we could guide you on that. Here's our next question. Are there any tips that I can share with my employees to help them be better consumers of healthcare? Yes, there are. So for instance, a lot of times inpatient, like for primary care visits, if it's done in a hospital, those claims would be higher than if it's done in a private doctor's office. Here's another thing. In the event one of your employees is not feeling well, rather than just automatically going to the ER, if they're on the fence, not knowing if this is a true emergency or not, we highly recommend you utilize an urgent care. Urgent care costs are substantially cheaper than an ER. And then a lot of urgent cares can run tests for you. If the urgent care feels that it is an emergency, then from that point, go to the emergency room. But we definitely encourage utilizing the urgent care benefit over the ER benefit if it's not truly an emergency. Additionally, MRIs, CAT scans, CT scans, colonoscopies, all of those sort of outpatient procedures, imaging and diagnostics, definitely shop them out. A lot of times, the easiest thing to do is to just go right into the hospital to do it. The moment you step foot into the hospital, most of the times, those costs are going to be astronomically higher than if you go to a standalone facility outside of the hospital. Those could be very cheap. For instance, I'll give you a personal example. My wife needed to go in for a a CT scan. The hospital was charging $5,000 for it. A standalone facility outside of the hospital, a few miles down the road, was charging $800. So obviously, $800 compared to $5,000 for the same type of test. $800 always wins, right? So make sure your employees are educated with that, not always just going to the hospital for these things, shopping around, see what the costs are outside of the hospital. And then additionally, getting your pharmaceutical drugs at Costco, Sam's Club, Walmart a lot of times. Typically, those rates could be cheaper than going to your typical CVS, Walgreens sort of pharmacy. That's not all the time, but a lot of times that is the case. Well, we covered a lot of information in this webinar. I hope you found this beneficial. I hope we didn't go too fast on any of these topics here. This session is recorded, so we'll make sure that you all get a recording of this session. And then if you ever need to get a hold of our team, please reach out. I can be reached at Jonathan R at ISSA.com. So that's Jonathan R at ISSA.com. So if you want to set up a one-on-one meeting with me to do a deeper dive on your program, or you're looking to switch programs, please, I'll be more than happy to set up some time with you and hopefully get all of your questions answered. With that, I just want to thank everyone again for joining, and you all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you.